it just got very real for the Golden State Warriors, as there have been a ton of reports about players the Golden State Warriors are interested in, which players would be good fits, and players the Warriors could target ahead of this year's trade deadline. However, there hasn't been much about the other teams and their interest in making a deal with Golden State. But now there's a lot of reports about these other teams' interest in making deals with Golden State, the availability of some of the main targets for the Golden State Warriors, which makes these talks, these hypotheticals that Mike Dunleavy and fans of the team have thrown out there for the Warriors to make moves on, and reporters have linked Golden State's interest into. This makes it very, very real as we inch closer and closer to trade season for this Golden State Warriors team. So lots of stuff to break down. And folks, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys have been crushing it with the support on the channel. We're delivering you daily Golden State Warriors content. We have the goal of 15,000 subscribers by Christmas. So if you're enjoying the daily Golden State Warriors content, all of the coverage, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're currently at 14,226 subscribers. So it means the world to me if you're enjoying the daily content and you're watching. Hit that button down below. It's free and helps us out a ton. But let's dive into it because, of course, the Golden State Warriors are at a very interesting spot right now. The Western Conference is very, very competitive this season, as it is in most years. But Golden State, they have a bit of a lead out there on, the Blazers, the Grizzlies, who have started to win a few games as of late. You got a little bit of separation now between the Suns and the Wolves that the Warriors will have to make up the ground for. But this team has shown flashes of greatness. You have guys like Spencer coming out and having really, really solid impacts. Melton returning from injury and showing what he can do on both ends of the court. You're dealing with injuries right now to Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green now at this point. So the Warriors have to rebalance the roster a little bit from, the glut of guards that they have on this team right now and fortify their front court, fortify their centers. And that is essentially what the Golden State Warriors' plans are. We've heard this before. The expectation is the Warriors will be evaluating all options on the trade market regarding experienced frontcourt depth and athletic wings. Should Kuminga be traded, the Dubs will do so with the intention of adding size and a player on the wings who could fill the role Wiggins held during his time in Golden State. So that has led to a lot of players being linked to the Golden State Warriors. Of course, one name that's been brought up a ton is basically Herb Jones. As while Williamson has not been generating a ton of trade interest, both Herb Jones and Trey Murphy have been hot commodities since last year. There's been no shortage of interest in either young wing around the league, and multiple teams are expressing heavy interest in Jones, specifically the Lakers and the Warriors. So, bringing up Herb Jones first, because he's a player that we've talked about a ton. He's a gettable guy that fits exactly the Golden State Warriors' needs. This season averaging roughly about 9-10 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 2.3 assists. He knocks down the three ball at a solid rate, but provides you absolutely elite on-ball defense. Doesn't do anything outstanding. He's not going to be a game changer. He's not going to be one of those crazy elite 3-and-D guys, but would be a very, very nice fit to, fill what, 75% of what Andrew Wiggins used to fill, and maybe even with better on-ball defense, right? Herb Jones is really, really outstanding as an on-ball defender. So Herb Jones has been brought up a ton, and now we have some insights into Herb Jones's actual availability. So through the years, the Pelicans have signaled that Jones was not available in trade talks. And Dumars, of course, the GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, he operated with a similar mindset when he took over the front office this past summer. Given the team's struggles and clear need for future assets, the chance of a trade involving Jones have grown exponentially since the start of the season. Expect a bidding war to take place as Jones leading up to the trade deadline, with more than Los Angeles and Golden State getting involved. So this is good and bad news. Good news that Herb Jones will be made available because, makes sense, the New Orleans Pelicans to make that happen. This team is an absolute dumpster fire this season, and they don't have their pick. You can see they are losing a ton of games. They're 3-20 out there on the year. They're 15th in the Western Conference, and it has just been bad, and they don't have their draft pick. So they are going to be in a desperate situation to improve this roster, to improve this team, and figure something out. So it's good that he's available. The bad news out there, of course, in that report is that he's going to be made available to a bunch of different teams, and expect a bidding war to amp up. And For Herb Jones, it's worth, giving up some assets, giving up some pieces, just given what impact he can have on the defensive end. But the guy that is really intriguing and would excite Golden State Warriors fans is his teammate, Trey Murphy III, who's been brought up a ton out there in these vids, averaging 20 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, remarkable efficiency, 61% true shooting on 20 points per game is very, very good. He plays defense, he gets steals, he does a lot of stuff out there you want on the basketball court, and could actually be that multi-level scorer the Warriors would want out there on the wing. So he would be a great player in terms of bringing in. But we've heard this report, essentially from Evan Sideri, saying that Trey Murphy III is widely viewed as one of the most coveted potential trade deadline targets. Rival executives believe the Pelicans could net 3 first-round picks and multiple high-end prospects in return for Murphy. New Orleans not owning their 2026 pick complicates everything. And that is a very, very expensive price for Trey Murphy, who is a guy that, of course, can play elite defense, can do all the stuff that Warriors fans would want out there on the wing. Exactly what the Warriors are kind of looking for out there at this trade deadline. But it is an expensive price, and while Herb Jones' availability is very real, a Herb Jones trade could go down, there's a lot more speculation in terms of whether or not Trey Murphy III could actually get dealt. Basically, Murphy's situation is slightly different. The Pelicans still really like Murphy's value and his overall potential next to Fairs and Queen, which is why he is a steep asking price. There's a growing belief that Murphy III will be pushed as the face of the franchise, according to Clutch Points Pelicans insider Chris Dodson, and it would take multiple first-round picks and a decent prospect for New Orleans to relinquish him. Now, how do we define prospect? Does JK constitute as a prospect out there, the New Orleans Pelicans will be interested in? Well, there's already been some interest attached to this whole situation. Essentially, along with the Pacers, another team the Warriors will likely talk to about Kuminga is the New Orleans Pelicans. Both Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III are players the Warriors have great interest in, and they are the type of versatile wings the Dubs would want in a deal involving Kuminga. So, if the cost is multiple firsts and a prospect, could you maybe do 2 prospects and a first? Could you trade a Podziemski and Kuminga and a first-round pick out there for Trey Murphy III? Because that's a deal that I'd be very, very interested in to acquire Trey Murphy III. Frankly, that is something that would have me excited. That would have me very, very intrigued. So if that's the asking price, Herb Jones will be a lot cheaper, even though there would be a bidding war between these teams. If the cost is Podziemski, Kuminga, and first-round pick, and maybe some seconds or something, that is something you have to take seriously if you are Mike Dunleavy in terms of improving this roster. So, very interesting fit, very interesting potential acquisition there. But of course, a lot of people want to fortify the front court. Have some build-up out there at that point because, of course, the roster's imbalanced now for Golden State, and they have to figure out that situation. And Miles Turner is a name that has been brought up a ton out there as hypotheticals and stuff. And basically, we now have an update in regards to what's happening to Miles Turner. So basically, some teams out there think post-Giannis Bucks would want to initiate a full-scale teardown, which includes trading away veterans like title-winning Bobby Portis, the February acquisition of Kyle Kuzma, and off-season acquisition of Miles Turner. Even then, there would be some loud questions. So essentially, there are a lot of people speculating about whether or not the Golden State Warriors could get in the mix and whether the Bucks would look to fire sale and get rid of a guy like Miles Turner, who, again, isn't exactly the ideal fit for the Bucks right now because they needed a co-star around Giannis. Miles Turner is not a co-star, but what he is a rim-protecting big man. He's 9th in the NBA in blocks per game. He gets rebounds. He knocks down the three-point shot. It would be exactly the type of guy the Golden State Warriors need. And we have this report from the NBA Trade Report saying that Miles Turner is emerging as a real Golden State target if Milwaukee shifts into seller mode ahead of the trade deadline. So you now have Herb Jones and Miles Turner as 2 names that are getting shoved that are directly linked to the Golden State Warriors out there in terms of trade interest, in terms of fit. That makes things, again, it's not going to happen immediately. The Warriors have to wait for Jonathan Kuminga's availability. It's not going to happen over the next couple days. But as these players become more available, as this Giannis situation develops over the coming weeks, essentially what we will find is these trade targets, these desperate teams having these guys available and making these trade scenarios very, very real for this Golden State Warriors squad. So let me know what you guys think, who you'd be most interested in bringing in to this Warriors squad. I'll answer every question you guys have in the comment section down below, but you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.